Okay. Yes. My name is Kit Wren. I like to do this specific kind of thing, and I'm going to keep doing that until someone stops me by force. I don't like your odds. But if you haven't seen me before, here's something that'll make you feel a little better about that. Because I want to relieve one pressure you have felt and then replace it immediately with another. Do not worry about the first impression. The first impression is nothing. It is easily overridden and constantly amended, often forgotten entirely. Much more important is the 0th impression. You have no control over the 0th impression. You have no way to influence it or to even access it. It is being made right now independently in places that you have never even driven through. You see, as friends tell new friends of old friends, those new friends must depend on imagination and stock images to complete the story themselves. You are a placeholder name in so many stories. People you have never met have strong and inflexible opinions about you and what you should have done that one time. One day, you will meet someone who knows of you only from a bystander's account of the worst day of your life. If he or she makes the connection, they will be close to starstruck, trying to reconcile the physical facts with their own understanding. You must see they have carried this story, this cartoon of you, this caricature from a tourist trap for a long time. It has been rolled up, put into moving boxes, and subsequently unrolled in new domiciles. They may have even added their own twist to the story. It is their story now. You are now the protagonist of a modern urban legend. Do not fight against the 0th impression. Do not dwell on it. Don't justify yourself. Don't try to give context. Do your best to see the honor and not the offense. While no one can be all things to all people, you may find that thanks to the 0th impression being many things to enough people is astoundingly easy. So now that we know each other, another weird theory that no one else will sign off on. The poet begins since poems were made by invoking the Muses. Well, that's fine. That's nice. But the Muses are busy. They have full voicemails and calendars. And sometimes, even when they deign to speak with you directly, they are intimidating and unclear. Thunder is both music and an instruction, but is usually just taken as a noise. Even the friendly minor gods are still gods, inscrutable, and doing things mostly for their own satisfaction. We must turn our eyes to the ground. We must turn to the inverse muse. On stage, maybe there is someone trying to do their best to get the weather report in their head, but always later wrong, just like the real weatherman. You saw the rain clouds. You're baffled by the person on stage who was 10% of the way there before changing their mind. You have found your inverse muse. You will see in them an accountant's thorough ledger of the things you never want to do or represent. You will learn what you value by its apparent lack. When you reach instinctively to correct your inverse muse's posture, you will feel your own backbone strengthen and oddly grow. In this spirit of negation, I must briefly name two things the inverse muse is not. The inverse muse is not a pupil for you to instruct. This is not My Fair Lady. For God's sake, don't tell them. They're probably perfectly happy to be who they are. You must learn from them without changing them. Nor is the inverse muse a nemesis, a stalking horse that the more spiteful among us need to push against. You must never lower yourself by hating your inverse muse or rejoicing in what you see as their struggles. After all, I believe that Gallant loved Goofus like a brother and would have challenged us all in the continental style if he knew why we were laughing. All right, and the zoning committee has been working around the clock, availing themselves of even the extra 37 minutes. The issue is a silly one, but one with billions of dollars staked on it regardless. Owing to the nature of Mars-reduced gravity, how far away from residential neighborhoods must the proposed stadium for the expansion franchise Mars City Rovers be built in order to prevent unusual amounts of property damage from flying baseballs? The meetings have been contentious, detail-oriented, inscrutable, and unproductive. At this point in the young history of Mars City, not even a generation on, the pioneer's dream of leaving Earth's problems on Earth must seem tragically naive, like a virus praying earnestly for its next host to be tougher. Sometimes all these words get unruly. Then I have to crack the whip. It's tough. It's tough. The I of the poem is not I, but he often resembles me. The I of the poem speaks in my diction and preoccupies himself with my concerns. I do not know if this makes him my employee or my son, or maybe a plant sprouted from a trimming. When they complain about their circumstances, I do not know if they do so with the helpless wail of a skinned knee or the veiled threat of unionization. When they fail in front of a live audience, sometimes I am vengeful and protective like a mother bear. Other times I am disappointed and grim and inform them that they have been reassigned. In a couple cases, let go altogether. A lovelorn I has requested a meeting. He has a list of demands. He is much more handsome than me, which makes his lovelornness inexplicable and cruel and artistically interesting. His first demand is just the word unfair in all capital letters. He is tired of being the Greek on the urn Keats saw, chasing and not catching, drinking and never drunk. He notes that I have no other poems in this emotional register. This is also unfair. This is too much pressure. And anyway, he thought that I hated Keats. I love Keats. I don't know where he got this idea. He wants a better ending. Poems don't end, I say. He shrieks in frustration. Not another damn koan. I just want some fucking say in the things that I am supposed to have done. It sounds reasonable, but plenty of actual people have the same complaints. This is supposed to be about them in the end, right? Not us. A poem isn't a way around or out of life. I lecture the lovelorn one. I put a fatherly hand on his shoulder. He doesn't like it, but he's too weak to shake it off. It has to be weathered, just like everything else. I point him towards the door, and he leaves as miserable as he's ever looked. And I created him to be miserable. The eyes of my poems are talking amongst themselves. They are restless and stubborn. They are not staying within their lines and themes. They are comparing salaries. I do not know if they are my employees or my children, but they are definitely not plants. And both fathers and bosses know that the revolution always comes. All right. This is my favorite. The comedians have renounced raunch and transphobia and hatred in general. They have seen their folly, they tell me. They line up and say sorry and thank you as if it is all one word. They have set up this event, the first of its kind post-pandemic, to prove their sincerity to me. One approaches the mic and then another. They are all reading aloud from the same worn copy of Capitalism and Schizophrenia by Giles Deleuze. They pass the one copy between themselves as they all take their turn, going for exactly 7 minutes each. It has a used tag from a college bookstore, University of Vermont. Charlie the Catamount is just barely smiling at me from the crinkled sticker on the spine. Their faces as they perform are intense. And as the others sit and watch, they are rapt. One is taking notes. My companion and I retreat to the patio, and by his leave, I smoke my first cigarette in 2 years. One by one, the comedians follow me out, eager and pleading like seminary students. Is this better? Are we better now, Kit? Have we made up for our sins and wayward lives? The truth is, I don't know. The truth is, I thought I would always have to fight the comedians for saying one awful thing or another. I viewed it as a responsibility I had to the scene, and the truth is, I have a middle management bred paranoia about what it means when a responsibility gets taken away. The truth is, I like the fight against the comedians so much that I never gave a thought to what victory would look like. The truth is, I confess to the one with the notebook, I haven't read very much theory. All right. Okay. If there's time, I'd like to do a cover. Okay, this is the end. I like to do cover poems. They're like cover songs, except I'm talking to you. It's a pretty easy concept if you think about it. You didn't need this explanation. Think about it. But I would like to read to y'all one of my favorites. This is To the Woman Crying Uncontrollably in the Next Stall by Kim Adonisio. If you ever woke in your dress at 4 a.m., ever closed your legs to someone you loved, opened them for someone you didn't, moved against a pillow in the dark, stood miserably on a beach, seaweed clinging to your ankles, paid good money for a bad haircut, backed away from a mirror that wanted to kill you, bled into the back seat for lack of a tampon, if you swam across a river under rain, sang using a dildo for a microphone, stayed up to watch the moon eat the sun entire, ripped out the stitches in your heart because why not? If you think that nothing and no one can, listen, I love you. Joy is coming.